Welcome back to Life Enrichment with Hank Ballinger. Today, I want to talk about the debt trap. Now, we all know about the debt trap. Not a fun trap to be in. And many times the debt trap is, it's a little like quicksand. And years ago, when somebody would get in a debt trap, maybe they get married, they maybe rent an apartment, or maybe buy a really small, cheap house. And then maybe they decide, well, maybe we can get an upgrade car from our beater, and we get one that's maybe only 8 or 10 years old. And maybe we got jobs that's, not great jobs, but they're okay. And they would get a little in debt with a house and maybe a small car payment. And then debt was not massive. The debt trap today, much different. Today, when young people go to college, they start racking up a lot of college debt, student loan debt. And then on top of that, the credit card companies and the colleges have made it very easy to get student loans. So you got student loans, and now they offer you credit cards. So by the time you get out of college, you have massive student loan debts and you have credit card debt. Then when you get out of college, well, you've got to buy a house, and well, you got a career and a pretty good job. Maybe you're just starting out. Maybe you're a junior in the partnership, or maybe you're just starting out on the social ladder. So, but you got to have a car. So you got a house, you got a car, student loan debt, credit card debt, and you start out in such a hole that it's hard to dig your way out of it. That is the debt trap, and it seems like every generation it gets a little deeper. So I want to talk about that today, but before we get into that, I want to say I appreciate those who have been watching the channel. If you like our content, feel free to share that content. We appreciate those who do. Again, the idea of this channel is that we can help people become redneck rich. We can help them get out of the day-to-day life, that they can kind of get rid of the shackles of all that bad debt. And that bad debt can just kind of consume you and just lock you in, and then it controls your life. So that's what we want to get people out of. So again, if you can hit the like button, subscribe, encourage others, share the channel, and encourage others to watch. We would greatly appreciate it. We can try to help together. We can help many people become redneck rich. So let's look again at the idea of what happens today when so many young people, they go to college, they get student loan debt, they get credit card debt. As soon as they get out, well, if you got a pretty good job, maybe you're in the white collar sector, well, you got to have a pretty nice car. You can't drive that old beater you were driving to college maybe, so you got to get a new car. And, well, you got to get a house because everybody down where you work, they have a nice car and a pretty nice house, so you got to get that nice house. And well, you can't wear that old Iron Man watch that many people wear, so you got to get some nice jewelry. You can't vacation just local, so you got to go on the nice vacations. And it just seems like one thing after another. And then the cell phones. Every time the newest and latest and greatest cell phone comes out, you got to go get the new one. You can't put up with that old one that's a year old. Why, nobody down at the firm does that. So you got to have the newest cell phone. All these things generally added together, they just keep you bundled and keep you locked into that debt trap that won't let go. Now let's look at something though. All of these are specific decisions that each one of us make. And I love what the economist Anthony Davies says. He says life is full of choices, but these choices are specifically designed that if we decide to do this, well, then we can't do that. If we decide to do that, then we can't do this. Life is full of choices, and each time we decide to do something, that means we can't do anything else. So if we decide to take all of this debt on ourselves, then that probably means we're not going to be able to build wealth. We have decided to take on debt rather than wealth. So let me show you some tips. Let me give you some tips as to how you can break this cycle, okay? Now, there is the poor, there's the middle class, and there is wealthy people. Nothing wrong with either. Nothing wrong. Neither is right, poor, middle class, or wealthy. Neither is right, neither is wrong. Neither is better, neither is worse. Neither of these classes are smarter than the others. Neither are more unintelligent than the others. They're just economic statuses. They're just socially and economically where you're at. So again, nobody is smarter, whether you're poor, middle class, or wealthy. Doesn't have anything to do with whether you're smart, good person, bad person. Doesn't have anything to do with that. It is just your economic status. Okay, let me make that real clear. Now, there is hope. If you do not like the economic status that you are in, if you don't like the level of wealth that you are currently in, there is something you can do about it. You don't have to stay there. That's the good point. You can build wealth. It is very possible. Now, I teach two kinds of classes generally. One is get out of debt. That's a tough class, okay? Then the other class is how to build wealth. If you are in debt and you have a lot of debt and it just seems like it's keeping you down, it's going to be hard for you to build wealth. One is because you haven't learned how to control that debt or to control the idea of, I want it now, I want it now, I want it now. You've got to learn to get control of that, and you've got to control it and not let it control you. Now, I love this saying, money makes a good servant, but it makes a terrible master. It really does. If it is your servant and you control it, well, you can really do a lot with it. But if it's controlling you, this is what happens. It will control you and it will keep you in debt and keep you down the rest of your life. So make sure you get a handle on that. Now, this is the tough one. This one really is. When I go through classes with people and try to get them out of debt, the first one is you have to have a budget. You have got to have it. Now, that is first and foremost. You cannot get out of debt without a budget. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I think I can do it. I want to do it this way, and I've got a plan. If the plan that you have worked, you wouldn't stay in debt. The fact that you stay in debt says that your plan ain't working. Okay? Now, if I decide to do something, meaning if I decide to stay in debt and I decide to keep trying it my way, and a year from now I'm still in debt, and 2 years from now I'm still in debt, 3 years from now I'm still in debt, my system is not working. If I'm not building up and getting out of that debt, then I have to change what I'm doing. Okay? So you must have a budget. You must live below your means. Now, let's say you have this level of wealth. This level of money coming in each month. You can't live up here. You have got to live down in this area, below your income. And within that money that you have, and you're living down here, some of that money you still have to put back in savings to save for the rainy day or retirement. You cannot have this level of income and live up here and build wealth. It is not possible. I don't care what your level of income. There are some people that are high income earners, sports figures. Sports figures make hundreds of millions of dollars, some of them, and within 2 or 3 years are broke. Look at Mike Tyson, made $300 to $400 million within 5 years after getting out. He was broke. 85% of all sports figures, baseball, football, and basketball, 85% of them are broke 5 years after they get out of the sport. All lottery winners, about 2 years after they win, no matter how much they win, 2 years later they're broke. Money cannot make you wealthy. Discipline and learning the system will make you wealthy. And once you learn it and learn how to live in it, live below your means, I don't care how much your level of income is. If your level of income is here, you live somewhere down in here. If your level of income goes up, stay down in here for a while. Once you get that level of income way up, then you can start raising your level of lifestyle. Learn that rule. It's a hard rule to learn. You must learn to live below your means. Now, listen to Dave Ramsey. Great guy. He has taught maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe, I don't know, maybe millions of people how to get out of debt. He has a 7-step plan. He calls them the baby steps. Now, it's a proven system. He has helped a lot of people to get out of debt. Yes, he will tell you, you're going to have to get on a budget. And a lot of times he says you got to eat rice and beans and rice, okay? You have got to figure out everything. You've got to become very intensive in how you attack this thing. You've got to be very specific, very direct. It's got to be you. You've got to do this, but you can do it. You can. Do not doubt yourself. You can do this. Now, Dave Ramsey also has something called the debt snowball. He would say you attack the smallest debt you have. So let's say you had 5 credit cards. Now, years ago, that would have been crazy, ludicrous. Nobody would have had 5 credit cards. Nowadays, it's a pretty common thing. So you take the one that you owe the least on, and you maybe even, if you can, double up on that payment, get that one paid off, and then everything you was paying on it, maybe on the second one up, you're paying the minimum until you get the first one paid off, and you double it and you really pay it off, and you get that first one paid off, then everything you was paying on it, plus what you was paying on the second one, you pay on the second one. Then, when you get it paid off, everything you was paying on it, plus the minimum you was paying on the third one, you pay all of that on the third one. And remember, you're living way down here. And then once you get the third one paid off, you see what you have. Now you have a great amount of money each month to pay that fourth one off. And then by the time you get that fourth one paid off and you've been paying the minimum payment on the fifth one, now you put all of that on that fifth one and you pay it off in record time. And then you put it maybe on student loan debt, get it paid off. Then maybe on your cars, get those paid off. Those are bad negative equity debts. Those items are going down in value, but yet you keep paying on them longer and longer and longer by stretching those payments out, specifically credit card and student loan debts for many people. So getting out of debt, no fun, zero fun. I get it. I get it. It is no fun. But if you want to change your economic status, it is an absolute essential. You have to get a budget. You have to live below your means. Don't get discouraged. You can do this. It is possible. Now, let me go over one thing that this one thing will really help you. It will. I call it the kill pride method. When somebody asks you, let's say you've worked all week and you've worked maybe a 60, 70 hour week, and the last thing you want to do, it's Friday afternoon and you get home, the last thing you want to do is think about more work. And maybe Mike and Meg come over and they say, hey, let's go out tonight. Let's go out and eat dinner and go watch a movie. And you say, yeah, let's do that because I am tired and I just want to relax and kind of kick back. So you go out with Mike and Meg, and there you are, you're eating a nice dinner, then you go watch a movie, and it's all well and good, but here's the problem. Generally, let's say you spent maybe only $30 on that meal. Not hard to do nowadays. So you spend $30 on the meal. Well, now $10 at least for each of you to get into the movie. And then if you go to the movie and you've already had dinner, you might as well get the popcorn and the soda, right? So now you're out maybe another $10, probably more, but let's hold it at 10. So you're out 30 on the meal, 10 for each ticket, and 10 for the popcorn and soda. You're out $60 for the evening, and that is probably a very conservative number. But let's say you're out $60. No, you're out much, much more. It took you one whole evening. You lost time. And that's a commodity you cannot get back. You can't. You've lost it. If you had spent that evening eating something cheap and spent that time working on your budget, figuring out how you're going to live well below your means, and realizing, hey, I am going to get control of this thing, and I'm going to get my life to where I can control the shots, and I control this thing, and it is the servant, and I am the master. Remember, it makes a pretty good servant money or wealth, but it makes a terrible master. Now, kill pride. When Mike and Meg come over and say, hey, let's go out and eat, let's go to the movie. Yeah, you've had a tough week. You've worked a lot of hours. But when they come over and say, let's go out and eat, let's go watch a movie, you say this: I can't afford it. 4 words will change your life. You've got to do it. You can do it. But those words, it kills pride. Your pride says, yeah, I've had a hard week. I deserve this. I'm going to go out and I'm going to enjoy it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to kill yourself. You're going to make yourself a slave to the system. So what you do is you say, I can't afford it. Now, let me tell you a little story about I can't afford it. A few years ago, we started building a new house, and we built a pretty nice house. But after we got the house built, I was still driving a truck that I had driven for years, and we'll put a picture of that truck in. And until about 2 years ago, I still drove that truck. I'd never had a new vehicle. And everybody that saw me would say, why don't you buy you a new truck? You know what I told them? I told them 4 words. What do you think those 4 words were? That's right. I can't afford it. Now, why did I do that? Could I have bought a truck? Yes. Any dealership would have given me that truck and let me set it up on payments, or I could have paid the truck off. Why didn't I? Because I couldn't afford it. See, remember what I said a while ago? Everything in life is a trade-off. If I decide to do this, I can't do this. So at the time, I was building wealth and I wanted to get to a certain area. I wanted to get to a certain place. And if I had bought a new truck, I would not have been able to buy more apartments. So because I wanted to buy the apartments and get more wealth, if I had spent that money on a truck, it would have hindered this. So if I do this, then I won't be able to afford this. So I wasn't lying. When they would say, why don't you buy a new truck? I said, I can't afford it. I could not buy the truck and keep buying apartments. Get good at killing the pride. Say, I can't afford it. It's tough, especially when you've had that tough work week and man, you're tired. You just want to relax. It would be great to go to the movie and go out and eat a nice meal. Really, it wouldn't really be hard at all on a Friday evening to maybe spend $50, $60 on a meal. Maybe spend $100 in an evening, but you've also lost the same amount of time that you won't get back. Proverbs 13:22 says this, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, not just one generation, 2 generations. Now, if we're in debt and we're barely eking through life, and again, doesn't make a person bad. I want to make that point vividly clear. Debt does not make someone bad, a bad person. But we cannot do this if we're in debt. So we have to get out of that debt and build wealth, and then we can leave an inheritance to our children's children. That is biblical. Now, get very intensive on destroying this debt, okay? You need a great budget. Now, I've gone over that over here, but I want to reiterate, I want to bring that back up. You have got to get a budget. It is zero fun. It is no fun. You have got to do it. You can do it. Have faith in yourself. You may have to get 2 jobs. Yeah, you were working maybe 40, 50 hours on this one, but maybe that's not cutting it. You've got a lot of credit card debt. You've got a lot of student loan debt. Maybe you got a car. One thing you may have to do, it is zero fun. You may have to sell that new car or that car that you're leasing, and may even have to take money out of your pocket to pay to get rid of it, and then buy you a beater and drive that beater for a few years until you can afford to get you something a little nicer. You may have to get 2 jobs. You may have to work 1 job in the day, 1 in the evening. You may have to be an Uber driver. You may have to work a job that maybe it's a white collar job during the day, and you may have to do a blue collar job in the afternoon. You have got to get very intensive on destroying and getting out of this debt. Nothing extravagant. Now, when I say nothing extravagant, no eating out. Okay, eating out is expensive. No eating out. No vacations. Oh, you say, I work all year and I got to take my vacation down to Florida, or I got to take my vacation out west, or I've got to go international. I've got to go to Paris or Rome or Italy. So, I've got to go somewhere. I've got to take a nice vacation. I got to get a break from all this. No. You have got to control it. Do not let it control you. No new cars. No, this is a tough one today, isn't it? No new cell phone. Don't get the latest and greatest. And that cell phone that came out this morning at 8 o'clock, I had it in my hand by 8:05. And about 12 hours of working with that staff member, and it was mine. I got everything changed over. But I got that new cell phone today because it came out today. No, get that cell phone that's a year or 2 older. If you're trying to get out of debt, those cell phones are pricey. Learn to spend time on that cell phone listening to podcasts on how to build wealth. If you consume your life with how to build wealth, you can build wealth. But if you keep doing what poor people do and what middle class people do, you will be poor or middle class. No, again, nothing wrong with those economic status. Nothing wrong with them. But if you want to change your economic status, you have got to start doing the things that the wealthy people do. Now, some people say, well, you can't do that in one generation. What's one generation going to do? What am I going to do with just one life? I wasn't a trust fund baby. My mom and dad didn't leave me a ton of money. Let me give you a statistic. One statistic. Read the book, The Millionaire Next Door by Stanley and Danko. Great book. They say this: 85% of all millionaires in any generation, go back as far as you want to, 85% of all millionaires in any generation are first generation millionaires. So that means in any time that you want to pick, all the millionaires or the wealthy people in that generation, 85% of them have made it in that generation. Isn't that interesting? You can do it. You can be the generation that changes the direction for your whole family. Not only for you, but for your children's children. You can become redneck rich. I would love it if some of these days you call me up or you send something in the description below and you say, hey, I have made it, I am redneck rich. That would tickle me to death. Great, good job. You can do this. You can be redneck rich. Appreciate your time. I'll see you on the next video.